Hey everyone, and thanks for jumping back into the cryptoverse. Today we're going to talk about Ethereum and the bull market support band. If you guys like the content, subscribe to the channel, give the video a thumbs up, and also check out the Telegram channel, which you can find a link to in the description below. Let's go ahead and jump in. So, we've talked about risk in navigating this market, and one of the things to consider whenever we are in a bull market is what is the downside risk. And the downside risk for even being in a bull market, I would say, is our bull market support band, which is a combination of the 20-week SMA and the 21-week EMA. The reason we use this is we can see that it works out pretty well with Bitcoin. The last market cycle, it was finding support on the bull market support band many times. Here, all of these 30-40% corrections that you see, finding support on the bull market support band. And we don't really talk about it as frequently for Ethereum. However, it does seem to have some type of support in a bull market. We can look at the last cycle and say, oh, look at this. We held it. We had a correction here, a 63% correction, so it's a pretty substantial correction. Here we had a wick all the way down, but if we just go to the candle, because we don't care about the wicks, 35% correction. Here, it was a 50% correction to the band, and it was the bad news bears, and we broke it, and the rest is history. Now, for Bitcoin, you can see we also had a similar 50% drop to get to the band, and we broke it, and the rest is history. So, at the very least, in a bull market, you have to assume that even in a bull market, there could be retracements, and the level that we could still drop to and still somehow maintain the integrity of the bull market would be at least to the bull market support band. Because if history is any indication, we've done it before and we kept going up after. Now, it doesn't mean that we'll hold it, but it means that at the very least, you should consider this as the downside possibility. A lot of new people coming into crypto only look at the upside. They think that it has to go up forever. They don't really look at the downside, but it's good to look at the downside risk involved. And just know, take a step back, let's be pragmatic about things. We've been going up for a while. If it keeps going up, great. I still own a ton of Ethereum. However, even in a bull market, we know that going down to the band is possible. Okay, it's certainly possible, and we need to consider that at the very least. So, where is it? Right? Where is the support band? Well, currently it ranges from $560 to $627. Okay. Now, I'm not buying Ethereum right now. You guys are fairly well aware of that. Doesn't mean the price won't go up. I hope it does. I still own a ton of Ethereum, but I'm also ready and prepared for the downside risk. As we've said before, there is simply no free lunch in crypto, and anyone pretending like there is, they're simply, feeding you a pipe dream, or they're feeding you something that is just simply not true, or they'll disappear when it goes down, and you won't see them again until the next bull market. So what we want to do is we want to stay level-headed and say, you know what? Ethereum has been going up for a while, okay? It has. And it's been going up really since March. And even during this time, we had, some nice retracements in the price of Ethereum. And it's funny because if you live through 2020 on this channel with me, and you look at this chart, if you remember back to 2020, there were some testy times for Ethereum, but then you look back on it and you're like, oh, it just mainly went up, okay? And that was, it's been a great year. Make no mistake about it. It has been a phenomenal year for Ethereum. Now, the question is how long can it continue before we see a nice correction? Because so far, since the bottom of these candles, we've moved up to the top. We moved up about 283%. Now we're at about 200% move up. We haven't really had a substantial correction until the one we're currently in. From the top of the wick, we're down about 20%. From the bottom of this wick from the top of the wick to the bottom of this one, we were down about 32%. So the idea is to just always manage risk. And if you're buying Ethereum now, and as long as you know of the short-term risk, even in a bull market, okay, then you're fine, right? Who cares? If you're in it for the long haul, and you just want to pick up some now because you don't have any, I've often said that if I didn't have any Ethereum, I would buy some now. If I didn't have any Bitcoin, maybe I would buy some now, you know? But if I were buying it now, I'd be like, all right, the short-term risk on this is pretty high. I mean, you take one look at Bitcoin, and we can't say that this is just a normal move that has to continue like this forever. We contend it could keep going up, but again, it's all about the risk, and the risk buying at these levels are certainly really high. And so, going back to Ethereum, we're currently at $1,060. Does it scare you, the idea that we could theoretically drop to 560 or 624? Obviously, that would be if we dropped immediately. Not necessarily, if it were a slower move over a month, then these will catch up some, right? And they won't be quite as far away. Maybe they'll be between $600 and $700. But if the idea of it dropping to this range is scary, just consider that is the risk, even in a bull market. As crazy as that sounds, like even in a bull market, the price of Ethereum could drop 50%, and we could still somehow maintain the integrity of the bull market. And you might say, that doesn't make any sense. Well, look over here. I mean, that's exactly what we did. We came up, Ethereum price came up to 426, and then we dumped to the bottom of the wick almost 70%. And then it wasn't that long later till we recovered back to the same level we were at. And the time between, this was June 2017 to August 2017. I mean, look at that dip. I mean, hopefully people had chips back then to scoop that up. Now, we're not saying it's going to happen, right? We're not saying it's going to happen. But if it does happen, we'd want to try to hold the line. And I'll try to hold the line, of course. I mean, if we go back to this level, then you better believe I'll definitely be accumulating Ethereum again. But we're still a long ways off from that level, and I might even accumulate it before that point. But the point is if you can't even stomach the downside risk to the bull market support band, then imagine what it would be like if we broke it. Just imagine what that would be like. So just a daily dose of Ethereum, let's say a pragmatic approach here to the Ethereum market. It's been a great year, and I have skimmed some profits on Ethereum off the top, and I'm okay with it dropping back down. But remember your risk, okay? Remember the risk involved. A lot of us were buying, at $100, $200 less than a year ago. It's now $1,000. It was $1,300 not that long ago. Hopefully we go to $2,000. I don't know about you guys, but I would love to see a $2,000 Ethereum. At the same time, we got to recognize the downside risk. And if one day you find yourself in the position, and let's actually switch this over to a different exchange so we can get a little bit more history. If one day you find yourself in the position where you're looking at this, and you say, oh, look at this, we're back in the regression band. If you ever see that opportunity, well, I would personally not let it go to waste. I mean, it's not financial advice, but accumulation phases of lifetimes, right? Accumulation phases of lifetimes, whenever we're in them, it can be scary, but as long as you zoom out and look at what's going on, business as usual. And if you're curious, the range on this, we're not even close to. I mean, we're not even close to the range to be back in this band. So, we might not even go back in this band this market cycle. It could take years before we go back in this band, or it could not. But it ranges, if you're curious, this band here ranges from 213 up to 433. So, Ethereum would have to dump quite significantly to get back to those levels. But anyways, even in the event of a dump, we still have our bull market support band, and there's always a chance that we are able to hold the line, so to speak, in the event that something like that were to happen. Now, with that in mind, Bitcoin is somewhat at a crossroads right now, okay? It is at a crossroads. If it chops sideways for a bit, maybe Ethereum can gain against Bitcoin again. But if Bitcoin ultimately ends up dumping in the next few days, then we know Ethereum will go down with it, right? It's the risk we take. So from here, what we want to do going forward, this is my strategy. I'm not buying Ethereum. Not right now. I have a lot of it, but I've taken some profits off the top. I'm not buying it. If it goes down and it goes back to these levels, then I'll come out and try to hold the line. And we'll see if we can do it. And if we can't, then, well, maybe back into the regression band we go. And that would be great, right? That'd be great. Let's accumulate again, because I ultimately see this thing going well into the four figures, not just stopping at $1,000. I ultimately see it going well into the four figures this market cycle, but it's not going to go up monotonically, right? It's not going to go up monotonically the entire market cycle, and I do think this cycle will be extended. I don't think it's going to be over in 2021 like a lot of people think it will be. So let's see what happens. We just like to cover some, from time to time. More recently, we've been doing it more than we normally do just because of how, elevated the markets are. But we just want to provide people with a more grounded perspective, because if we just get into the habit of saying, Ether goes up or something, then it could lead to people making some poor choices. So none of this is financial advice, but we always have to be cognizant of the upside and the downside. The upside to Ethereum is great over the macro scale. The short-term downside risk is there. Make no mistake about it. The short-term downside risk is there. I'm probably one of the biggest Ethereum bulls. I own a ton of Ethereum. But I also recognize when things get overextended, the risk on it is pretty high. If we are able to watch Bitcoin chop sideways, or if Bitcoin just gets on track, then note that, it could continue and maybe we'll break the prior all-time high and even extend much higher. At that point, imagine the people coming in there, right? Imagine if Ethereum goes up to $2,000 in the short term. There's going to be people buying up here. And I would feel bad for these people. I really would feel bad for these people, just because of the fact that it's going to be very hard for probably people, for me, probably for a lot of you guys. It's going to be very hard not to skim profits off the top when you're looking at like a 20x in a year. Okay, so just keep that in mind. And then if we continue to move higher, then there's more and more people, right, that bought down here, and then they're going to be looking to sell up here, and then these guys are going to have a harder and harder time seeing any type of any type of decent short-term ROI. So with that said, just a grounded perspective on Ethereum. We want it to go up, but we recognize the downside risk. I'm not buying Ethereum. If I didn't own any, maybe I would. But it certainly would not be something I would necessarily count on to return a great return in the short term. So we'll see what happens. Obviously, a lot of this will depend on if Bitcoin, what will Bitcoin do? Okay, what will Bitcoin do? Will it chop sideways a little bit? If it can, then maybe Ethereum's got another move in it. If it can't, and it collapses, then rest assured, Ethereum will be right there with it. So that'll wrap it up for the video. Remember, if you guys like the content, subscribe to the channel. Let's go for 100,000 subscribers. Give the video a thumbs up. Also check out the Telegram channel, which you can find a link to in the description below. The other thing to consider is the premium list at intothecryptoverse.com. You get access to weekly reports, weekly videos. You'll find out what I'm doing on the markets. There's the Telegram alerts channel, the risk dashboard. Go check it out, intothecryptoverse.com. You can pay with crypto to get a 15% discount. That'll wrap it up for the video. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and I will see you next time. Bye.